Hey, what's up, y'all? It's me again, Chef Kepra, here to post another video. I'm excited about today's message. I'm going to be going in. I'm going to be discussing some announcements. We're discussing the season. So I hope you get a lot out of it. So here we go. First thing I want to discuss is we are in our Equinox season. I hope we all had a great summer. I know I have. I've, had a well-rounded, fun-filled. Definitely got a chance to experience nature, and um, our people are definitely showing love at our shop. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Um, and just all around, family, friends, business, etc. It's been a blessing for sure. So I just wanted to thank everyone, for watching the videos. I've been getting a lot of great feedback, from the viewers. So just appreciate y'all tuning in and continuing to look forward to what I have to say. All right. So with that said, today we're gonna be talking about the season we're in. We're on our, today is September 11th, and we would definitely want to say rest in peace to those who lost their lives uh, 15 years ago. And I didn't intend. It's just coincidence that we're doing this video today, but since I mentioned the date, it came to my mind. So we definitely want to remember those. If you lost a loved one, my condolences. So September 11th, and towards the end of this month, we have our fall equinox happening, and it's definitely a key time. Any solar change is definitely key, and the equinox is no exception. So what does that mean for us as health seekers, as those of us who are aware, who are tuned in to nature, tuned in to the cosmos? What does that mean in terms of how we should prepare ourselves and allow ourselves to benefit? Because really, when we start really tuning in to not just the solar cycle, the lunar cycle, the weekly cycle, the daily cycle, we start to create a level of efficiency. I mean, we all want to be more efficient with everything in our lives. At least I would hope that you would want to be. And our health and wellness, when we eat, what we're supposed to eat, what time of the day, all those things create efficiency. And the more efficient in terms of the consciousness that we're bringing in to our diets and lifestyle, then obviously the more benefit, the less, this physical body is a machine. And as any machine, machine requires maintenance, and a machine, if it works efficiently, it's going to work better. Okay, so who wouldn't want that? We all would want that. So being in tune with the equinox, or just with the cyclical changes, is paramount. And it's really not so much the equinox that's important. It's really the season, because that is over a longer time frame. So if we look at the equinox beginning from the date of September 21st to September 24th, that being a 4-day period where it marks the specific shift, it's really from September 21st to December 21st. And that's what I really want to discuss, because this time of the year, it really represents definitely where the because we're coming off the sun or the summer season, and summer being obviously temperature-wise being our warmest season, but also a season where our energy is at a high. Our vitality really is at a high, and we're getting and that's because, again, the way the sun is positioned in the northern hemisphere with the earth is where it's positioned with the sun. We're receiving a lot of that solar energy, and as we move past those dates, September 21st to the 24th, what ends up happening is obviously the days get shorter, the energy grows weaker each and every day. So just like when we say, the moon goes through its waning and it's waxing, or it's waxing and it's waning. So it's waxing, it's building, it's growing, it's waning, it's waning, it's getting weaker. So the solar energy is going to be getting weaker. The solar energy is directly correlated with our digestive energy. Our digestive energy is getting weaker. Okay, so with that said, we have to definitely be conscious of that. We should, number one, we should definitely be eating less food. Your appetite should naturally begin to wane during this time. If we didn't have electricity, that would be one thing where we would really start to feel the sun getting weaker. Because again, if we didn't have lights and if we didn't have electricity to stimulate us to, it's almost like false solar energy. When we turn on lights, when we use things that require electricity or some form of energy, again, this is not a debate about electricity per se, but I'm just trying to make the point that we, during this time, this is definitely not the time to overstimulate. And which is why it's so critical I begin to discuss this, is because this is the overstimulation season. This is the season for overstimulating us, being especially mainly with our holidays. It begins with Halloween, and then it continues with Thanksgiving, and then we have our December holidays, depending on what your religious practice is. Whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, etc. These things, what they allow. First of all, they celebrate, well, with Christmas at least, definitely celebrating the use of electricity with all the lights, and obviously the central thing with all of those things that I just mentioned is food. We always have to look at the food, and not to mention also, so there's food with the event in and of itself, and then there's food surrounded by, even aside from those things with work, office parties, it's all around us. It's hard to escape, and we really need to, if we're going to really get the most and the real benefit, because really, this is really truly the healing season. More than any other season, it's not spring. It's definitely not summer. And maybe winter. You can argue that winter maybe first, fall maybe second, and vice versa. However, when we look at the dark cycles, dark being fall and winter, those are the times when obviously the darkness becomes dominant. So what does that mean? When we have darkness, typically when it's dark, what do? We sleep. When we sleep, we rejuvenate, we heal, we again. So healing is paramount in this season. If we're overstimulating ourselves with holidays, with feasting, overconsumption of food, feasting, not really, going into, or really going the other direction in terms of, going with what nature is telling us in terms of, again, the cycle is becoming darker. So we should, again, eat less, do less. Therefore, we're in tune, we're in line with the season, the cycle. We're not swimming upstream. If you're trying to accomplish so much in these cycles, again, it's the equivalent of trying to work at night. When we work at night, we may get things done, but we're undoing ourselves. So when if you find yourself falling into the rhythm of the mass populace, then you're going to be undoing yourself, especially as we move into the new year. All of us want to wake up in the morning feeling renewed, feeling energized, feeling ready to conquer the new day. If we wanted to wake up each and every day feeling that way, we should definitely want to take that same concept and take it into a new year. However, if we're overconsuming, we're overstimulating ourselves in this critical, important fall rejuvenation season, then there's no way that we can truly be efficient for the upcoming new year, and we will not be able to, therefore, be our best selves and accomplish the goals that we set out to accomplish. So it's so critical and it's so important because because we're in a rejuvenation healing season, and if you're overstimulating yourself, you're overconsuming, etc., etc., this is the season where people's health really definitely take a sharp decline. The energy in and of itself, I just explained how our solar energy, which is directly linked with our digestive firepower, our healing ability in general, is just not where it's going to be if we're in the middle of March or even in the middle of July, where again, the energy in our bodies are on a whole different level. Okay, so if we're in the middle of October, November, December, our body just doesn't have the healing vitality, the healing energy as it does in other periods during the year. I also want to, as a, I take this concept also within my yoga practice. I've been practicing yoga since 2002. So we're in 2016, so a little over 14, going on 15 years now. Been practicing yoga pretty much, on an annual basis, on a yearly. Well, I've been an active yogi. Let me just say that, okay. And I've taught classes. I've done most forms of yoga, and in my 14 years of practice, I've adopted this concept. And usually when I share this concept with fellow yogis, they sort of meet me with some resistance. But it was just all out of my, through my own personal practice, and also, realizing what was happening with my body overall, and seeing the fact that, again, I wasn't going to be accomplishing or having breakthroughs in this season. If anything, if I was, the more it was like the harder I tried, the more my body said, okay, you need to rest. And not just rest like, lay down and rest for a couple hours. It was like, no, rest like as in give me some weeks or some months rest. And typically when the body is asking for that kind of rest, that's when injury usually comes up. Injury is, I'll go out on a limb and say injury, there's no injury that's accidental. If you're prone to injury, that is just how your body is communicating with you in terms of asking for rest. You may have a internally strong system, but again, we all need rest. We all have to take extended breaks from whatever it is. So if you're out there, you're listening to this, and you are like a full-time yogi, especially yoga teachers and trainers and things, what I do, definitely by the fall equinox, I shut it down. I shut it down probably for the rest of the year. And what I found is that, number one, that extended health. Now this is with, practicing basically, having a consistent practice from the beginning of the year up until now. So we're looking at, week in, week out, practicing at least 2-3 times a week. Okay. Because yoga can be so, you're applying, static, stress. You're putting stress. Yeah, it's rhythmic. You're breathing and you're being static. But stress is stress. And, I did a video. I once did a video and said how, stress ultimately is good for us. I definitely believe that. But you got to know when to say when and know when to shut it down. And, by taking a break for the next 3 months approximately, what that does is, again, it's just like when we're practicing on a weekly basis and, you rest. Let's say you practicing yoga every day, which I think is crazy. And if, you take a couple of days off, you feel fresh. You feel like you can go further than where you can bend a little further. You can balance a little longer. And again, you're just really extending that concept that we experience maybe with a weekly practice to a yearly practice. The first time I purposely took an extended amount of time off, I can remember coming back to yoga, and it took a few weeks for me to get back to, after, the 3-month rest. But after that, after about 2 to 3 weeks, I was stronger. I was more flexible. I had more balance than any period the year prior, and it was all because of that extended rest. So, I with enthusiasm tried to share my experience with fellow yogis, the thing is that the most important thing to take is the fact that our bodies don't heal the same way during this time of the year than other times of the year. So if we're in our spring season, which is our polar opposite of our fall season. Now we can go above and beyond. We can that is a time where we can get away with eating eating more food. We can do more in terms of stress on our bodies and get more benefit versus during the fall season, which is our healing season. This is the time to really gain all the benefits, all the work that you put in, dietarily, physically with your exercise. If you do other forms of exercise, I mean, yoga is so intense in terms of it's literally reshaping yourself, and that's why I feel like you definitely need an extended break. If you do other kinds of exercise, you may not necessarily need to. It just depends on how strenuous it is. And then with that said, there's also restorative yoga. So if you have a very intense practice, I definitely think that it should definitely become one where it's more meditative. Every practice, whether it's a martial art, whether it's a gym activity, whether it's a sport, this is really the season where you go internal versus external. So as a yogi, this is the time to strengthen your meditation. This is the time to strengthen your breathing. This is a time to work on the things that's going to restore your health versus to stress the external muscles, bones, ligaments, etc. Okay, so and then also with that said, on a personal spiritual level, this is definitely also a time to reflect, take stock of your year. We all set goals, or we should be setting goals, and so because this is a more of a healing rejuvenation time, we can't heal and rejuvenate and work and achieve simultaneously. We have to really be doing one or the other. So if you feel like you're in a period now where you're thinking about your goals, you're setting goals, this is really the time to stay in the lab, so to speak, to be underground. You're that seed, or to just continue to formulate the seed to be planted. This is definitely not the time to try to water the seed and try to get something to grow or to even sprout. No, right now you're building the seed to be planted. And once we reach our winter solstice, then that's the time we want to start to sprout the seed and use the energy of the growing energy of the sun. As we approach the winter equinox, the sun reaching its lowest point in the northern hemisphere. Boom, right after the equinox, the sun is on the increase. It's beginning to wax, not wane, and therefore that energy, that tide, that wind is at our back. So, but right now, we're in healing season, rejuvenation season. So it's time to take stock of the previous 9-10 months. It's time to reflect. What did you do good? What did you not so good? How would you do it differently? This is definitely the time to go into your journal, to write down, to record. This can give you greater insight as well. So it's really a time to go within. It's really a time to, again, be more meditative, more reflective, and from a health perspective, this is definitely a time where no matter where you're at dietarily, you just want to be eating less. And if you want to be making changes, then this is a time that not necessarily to make a whole lot of change. You definitely want to eat less. It could be a good time to make change, but it also is, it's definitely a time where you can begin to reflect on the changes that you need to make. It really has to start here, and you really have to plant the seed so that your will can carry it out. Our willpower, the only reason I say it's not really the time to make real significant change is because our willpower is really at its weakest time right now. Think about it. Our will is connected with the solar energy. So our will is at its highest during the spring equinox and the summer solstice, and those months, spring and summer. So really, the ideal time is between winter and spring to make change, and a lot of people do that as they make New Year's resolutions. So this is the time to begin to reflect on those changes that you need to make, not necessarily make those changes, because again, you basically want to recognize the energy that we're in now. All right, so we're gonna move forward with the video. I wanted to also discuss. I wanted to talk about raw food for a second. Obviously, I've been practicing raw food diet since 2000. So we're going into my 17th year, and one of the things that always comes. I had a customer approach me just this past week, and he was one of the customers has been watching the video and said, "Man, keep doing what you're doing." But he had, it was an email. I had received an email out of the blue one day, and I get a lot of emails and a lot of different questions, obviously. But I was moved to reach out to. I believe I sent a message back, and he quickly replied, and I said, "Well, let's talk about it." And essentially, what ended up transpiring is, basically, we spent a significant amount of time on the phone, which I didn't mind, but as someone that does health consultations and that charges for them, that's essentially what I gave him for free. And again, it wasn't like I felt shortchanged or anything like that. I was just kind of flowing with the moment, and I would do it again. And it's just interesting how the universe will work, because obviously, anything that you give, it always will come back, no matter what. And so I'm in my shop, and obviously I'm in my busy work mode, and I'm thinking about a million different things. And the brother said, "Excuse me, I just wanted to thank you for, we had talked some years ago, and you gave me a lot of great information, but at that time I wasn't ready." And he had mentioned that he had been doing raw for the last 8 weeks, and his health improved so significantly that his naturopathic doctor recommended that he stop taking the diabetic medication. And at that point, it's moments like those where you it just gives credence, and it gives value and purpose to, because again, you gotta remember that I'm thinking about things that have purpose, but it's just, okay, I gotta drive here and do this, and I gotta go do this, and I'm thinking about this, and boom, someone stops you, and it just it's like all of that loses its relevance at that point, and you really begin to say, wow, this has really, the information that time I took to spend with him, not expecting any sort of monetary payment, just trying to share, trying to help this brother that was in need, and planting a seed with him where he said, "Man, thank you," and so much so that, you know, not just being a customer at my shop, but also, you know, possibly extending or saving his life. Uh, so one of the things that, it got me thinking in terms of, what I wanted to share today, because, I talk to so many people, and it becomes, I almost feel like a broken record, because it's like the same message, but no matter how simple that message may be, it's really very difficult to implement, because of all the things, again, that I mentioned in this video, in terms of, as we're moving into we're moving into what I call the rejuvenation, or the healing cycle. Our healing cycle is one where we don't have a tremendous amount of willpower to make significant change, especially in our diets. To change one's diet is the most difficult thing to do, period. So and then with all the tradition and the nostalgia, surrounding our holiday season, it can be overwhelming. So one of the things that, when I talk to people and I tell them about, when they ask me what they can do, and no matter what your condition may be, probably if I had to narrow it down to two things, there's a number of things that go into changing one's diet. And just to revisit my 5 keys to becoming and staying raw very quickly. One, you gotta, become somewhat of a chef. You gotta be able to make a good salad. That goes without saying. Number 2, you gotta educate yourself. You gotta feed your brain. So you have to watch videos like this. You gotta read books. You gotta watch videos. You gotta go to lectures, conferences. You gotta do all of that, and that all serves as, and that education serves as inspiration. So you gotta do that. That's number 2. You gotta change or alter your social network. With the internet and social media now, clubs, meetup groups, etc., it makes it really simple, really easy to reach out. When I started doing this, there was no Facebook, there was hardly, we were in the infancy of what computers are today, especially with social media. And there was no YouTube, so you just didn't have the information at your fingertips. Like I said, the internet was around, but it was highly inefficient. So you gotta no excuse. You gotta change your social network. So that's number 3. Number 4 is you gotta regularly detox. Even if you eat raw, it's important that we stop eating food periodically, once a week, a couple of days a month, and then as with our solar season, with each quarter, we should fast maybe 5 to 7 days. And then last but not least, and I saved this one for last, is because this is what I want to touch on, because this can be, all of them have their set of challenges, but I think by far and away the most, especially as we deal with food, food is people are not even eating food. Let's just be real. They're eating food stuff or drugs. The science, any scientist would tell you, once you if you alter, especially when using heat, you alter a certain substance, you literally change it from something natural to unnatural, or something that's food into a drug. So if you're eating mostly cooked food, you're really eating mostly drugs. Yes, you may get some benefit out of it, and it'll keep you alive, it'll keep you functioning, but you're going to be functioning far than less, definitely not on an optimal level. And that's just science. That's not my opinion or anything like that. That's just real facts. So last but not least, in terms of the 5 keys, is we have to become, I say you have to become more green. And that's become a cliche. It's become somewhat of a cliche in our environmentally conscious world that we live in now. Green, being more green. A company, corporate America is becoming more, using green practices. But we have to apply that within our temples, in our bodies. It's like you got to become more green on the inside. And really, green is just a nice way of saying bitter. Because, a lot of our greens are really sweet tasting. And I tell people, it's like, wow, you really have to start to eat more bitter foods. Again, bitter food. And when we really start to appreciate bitter tasting food, then we begin to really start to change and really affect healing on a significant level. Bitter foods. When I gave a lecture last 2 weekends ago in Richmond, Virginia, I talked about relationships and how our relationship with food really mirrors our relationships in our lives, and how when we look at the five taste sensations that happen within the mouth. Obviously, when I ask people, or I ask my audience, what are the 5 tastes? Sweet, salt, that will usually come up first. When we eat food, that's what our tongues are looking for first, sweet and salt. And then the next 3 are what I call a healing taste. We have a sour or acidic taste. We have our hot, spicy, pungent taste, which we get from our peppers, things like onion and garlic. Those are hot foods, ginger. And then we have our bitter. Just like any relationship, we go through, those of you old enough to have experienced different relationships, and maybe you've been married, etc., etc., it's the bitter relationships that make us, that form us. And, we can't just eat sweet all the time. Relationships can't be sweet all the time. We don't ever get an opportunity to grow. And with our food, we have to appreciate the bitter taste of food, so much so that now bitter doesn't taste bitter. How long does that take? That could take 3 months, it could take 6 months, it could take years. But we have to begin to move in that direction of appreciating bitter tasting foods. Not just from, of course, so what are some of our bitter tasting foods? Well, first and foremost, I think about our herbal family. And a lot of our culinary herbs range somewhere from being probably mildly sweet to really extremely bitter, and everything in between. Probably our sweetest herb is the stevia, which they use as a sugar replacement or a sugar alternative. And then from there, even when we get into, we have our culinary herbs, which are generally, again, they're culinary and they're not necessarily medicinal. When you got your medicinal herbs, those are herbs that are definitely on the bitter side. But we have to, we can't separate medicine from food. So we have culinary herb and medicinal herb, and really it should just be herb. And they should all be culinary. We should be using medicinal herbs in our food. Our food should be our medicine. And if we begin to eat more medicinal food, more bitter tasting food, and this begs, this begs me to bring up the point of sugar just in general, because we have to really watch how we use that term, because sugar is not the enemy. And again, I'll say sugar is not the enemy. Why? Because everything breaks down into a sugar. So everything we eat is a sugar. So when we say, okay, I'm not eating sugar, it's like, okay, you're not eating then. Because even if you're eating oils or proteins or, whatever you may be, sours, bitters, those are all sugars. It's just that they're not necessarily sweet tasting sugar. So there is a difference. There is a similarity, and there's a difference between sweet tasting sugars and our bitter tasting sugar. So they're all sugar nonetheless. So with our bitter food, again, our herbs, our whole herbal family, and then we have a lot of our spices. Our spices are bitter, from especially the ones that we use in dessert. Cinnamon, nutmeg. We use a lot of, as a chef, I use a lot of vanilla bean, which, I taste the actual bean, which I like to think of it more of as a fruit than a bean. But it is not sweet. Let's not make no mistake. It is not sweet. And one of the things when I talk about bitter, when if you're eating food, one of the key things that people are looking for, aside from, definitely aside from nourishing oneself, is flavor. Flavor, we get flavor from bitter. We get flavor from hot. We get flavor from sour. Those are the medicinal tastes, or the medicinal taste sensations in the mouth. Not salt, not sweet. Salt and sweet will accentuate or work together with flavor. Flavor comes from herbs, spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, onion, hot pepper, basil, parsley, cilantro. These things are not sweet. These things are what give our food flavor, energy. So we have to really, put food in its perspective in terms of how we begin to change oneself for the better, how we begin to appreciate the wide spectrum of food, and how we have to make these things primary, they shouldn't just be, a lot of these things that I mentioned, for those of you that are eating a traditional standard American diet, These things may be, these things usually are in someone's spice pantry. And what it is just dead flakes. It's almost like those are almost lies of the original. Those are the remnants of the essence of the healing power of those foods. When we have, seasoned salts and things, and those things don't have the energy. Those things don't have the moisture, the oils, the enzymes, the healing, the energy, the flavor. All of those foods I mentioned, we need to be using not only in a fresh state, but those things have to be paramount in our diet. If we're making a dish, those things should be, those things should represent. I mean, that's one of the biggest secrets to me for me as a chef, and a lot of the recipes that I've created, especially with one where we're using things like nuts and seeds and things that people may want to limit in their diet for whatever reason, or for their different reasons. It's balanced with a good amount of onion, of basil, of parsley, cilantro, thyme, rosemary, oregano. These herbs we're using in a significant way. We're just not using the flakes, the dead flakes that may be in your pantry. No, that don't count. You don't get a pass for those. You have to be using the actual herbs, the fresh herbs that if you don't use within a week, you got to throw them away. Herbs, not the ones that are just in there for maybe months to years. Those things are not going to benefit you. You're really lying to yourself. You're lying to your palate. You're lying to your body. So stop that. Go out to your farmer's market. Go out to your health food store and get some fresh herbs. That's number one. Number two, in terms of, really making that transition to raw foods, one of the things that, again, with our dietary practices, we're eating foods that are just a lie. I mean, I broke down before, earlier in this video, how we're not eating food, we're eating drugs. And, one of the primary if we look at the nutritional profile of food, we can really break it down into maybe like three primary components. You got sugar, you got carbs, sugar, carbs. I mean, I said everything is sugar, yes, but before it breaks down into sugar, we got our sugars. We got our protein, and we got our fat. And, and especially in the nutrition conscious world, we're all about, obviously, protein. Truth be told, if we're not eating protein in a balanced way, especially if we're eating a lot of animal protein, that's gonna do damage. So really, especially from when we look into make the transition to a raw food diet, aside from moving over to the bitter side of foods, excuse me, we have to start to eat. We have to increase the level of fat that we eat from raw plant sources. Okay, when we start to do that, we start to get those essential healing oils that obviously nourish us just on a whole nother level. That combined with the bitter, I mean, you're talking about medicine of the highest order, and if we don't do that, your body is going to crave fat from the sources that it's been used to getting. So if you're trying to make a change, one of it's paramount. So if we look at some of our sources, let's visit some of the sources of our plant-based fats. First and foremost, our nuts and seeds. Our nuts, they're definitely, I consider them fruits. It's just part of the fruit umbrella. So, we're all familiar with all the different nuts that we can eat. Typically, the way we buy nuts is in the bins, and they've been processed in terms of they've been shelled, and they've been dehydrated, or there's some kind of preservation technique, because there's still life in those nuts. So as a chef, what becomes important is to just getting familiar with how you soak nuts, and then how you use them thereafter. So definitely nuts, seeds, very important. And seeds, when we talked about sweet versus bitter, our nuts typically are more sweet tasting. Our seeds are typically more bitter tasting. So, seeds, but both are important. If you want to, eat a wide range of food, especially getting valuable fats from different plant sources, we start definitely with our nuts and seeds. So I typically, we definitely use both, like at our shop. They really complement each other, nutritionally and otherwise. So our nuts and seeds. But even more significant than our nuts and seeds is our fruits, our fatty fruits. And I have a copy of it here somewhere. But in David Wolf's book, The Sun Food Diet Success System, I believe it's called, he has a chart where he rates foods on a karmic level, and how fruits with fats are the highest karmic food. The highest at the top is breast milk, human breast milk. Again, that's the highest karmic food, a nursing mother that can give to her child. Right below that is our fatty fruits. Probably the first in line is our coconut, our young, tender, jelly coconut that has the young meat. I say it's the closest thing. First of all, I say it's the number one food, and that's partly the reason why. But it's so versatile. We have the water, which is the best water. Not this alkaline water, not any kind of mineral rich water. Volcanic. They have like volcanic water, and all the waters that are on the shelves. You can maybe make a case for rainwater, but in terms of water that is coming from a fruit or a plant, the coconut water is the highest water, and it grows the highest. So it's getting that sun energy. It's pulling the energy, especially if you ever get a chance to, travel, and it's the coconut trees that are closest to the salt water, to like our oceans, or seas. If it's a salt water source and they're pulling that water from the salt water, those are by far the most amazing coconuts that you could ever want to taste. But the jelly, the protein and the fat that's in that is just some of the best food, period. You can live on that alone for maybe forever, or as long as you eat food. Between the water being cleansing and then the meat being nourishing, you're really getting a complete. There's no food that's more versatile than that. Even the hemp seed, which nutritionally is a powerhouse. There's no hemp water unless you make a hemp milk. But again, the best hemp milk is when you use hemp seeds and coconut water. Again, we go back to the coconut water. But the coconut meat is what I want to highlight. Obviously, we should know about our avocado, our olives. What are some of our other fatty fruits? Common. Well, not so common is our ackee. Unfortunately, the only way to really get it here is in a can. But if you travel to, namely Jamaica, that's where they really kept ackee alive. Not even really in Africa, where it's from, West Africa, Jamaica. Which part of what makes Jamaica so special is the ackee. The ackee is, man, if you've never had fresh ackee, man, you haven't lived. It's really, man, to describe it, it's just, I mean, as a chef, like in Jamaica, the national dish is ackee and saltfish. So, with nuts or anything fatty, whether it's avocado, nuts, seeds, our instinct is to accentuate it with salt. So ackee being no different, it has a natural nutty flavor, kind of similar to avocado, but more firm. But ackee just tastes the best, just right out of the pod. It has this 3-section pod. And, beware. I mean, there's a lot of rumors that ackee can kill you, and it can. But it can only kill you if it's unripe. So, how do you know that it's ripe? Well, it has to open on itself. If you force it open, then it can kill you. So, yes, it is. It can be life or death. But I've eaten thousands of ackee. I'm still here. So, yes, the ackee is just magic. Just blissful. And to continue on our fatty fruit, I have a special guest here that's been sitting by my side, and I wanted to present this today because this is going to be my dinner for tonight. So one of our special, what I call master fruit. So fresh durian. So, if you've never experienced a durian, right now, like this durian, if you were outside of my house over here, you will be able to smell this durian. That's how strong the aroma. A lot of people will just speak wrong or bad about this fruit, this food. But I mean, just think about like a lot of the fruits. Like I was at the farmers market today, and they had some wonderful apples and nectarines, tomatoes. A lot of these fruits are. I mean, I love those fruits, but I would not go as far to ever call them master by any stretch. When we take a food or a fruit like durian, I'm trying to open this thing here. There we go. So you see that flesh? Man, that's like the equivalent of a lion getting his kill. When a lion, chases down that antelope or whatever it is he's chasing, and then he's ripping out the internal trunk to get at those key organs. that he's trying to rip into and suck the blood. That's what kind of thoughts I have when I open this and I smell this. Yeah. So and then it's like a custard. So that's my dinner tonight. And oh yeah, I was talking about again all the wonderful fruits that we have, especially we get here locally. But something like this, I mean, look at first of all, look at the skin. Let me rip the skin off. I mean, the energy it took for nature to produce with this sort of thickness. I mean, it's the same with our coconut. I mean, our coconut, we got to climb the tree. You know, the energy that it took to, you know, the thickness and then the smell. Like I said, you could smell this around the block, literally. I mean, there's a story that I tell. You know, I was at a you know, it was a festival inside of a hotel, and I won't give too many details. You know, I'll just make it relevant to this durian. But I had some durian, and again, I had it like pretty contained. I didn't have it out like this, you know, just all exposed. It was already out of the fruit, and it was in this container in a bag, and in the refrigerator. There was a refrigerator inside a room, and there was you know, different classes of things going along in this hotel. And you know, when I was ready to eat, nobody smelled it obviously when I had it contained. But once I took it out for maybe 5 minutes, had a little as a snack, closed it up, put it back in the refrigerator that it was in. And all of a sudden, everybody was saying, "What is that smell? What is that smell? It smells like gas." So much so, it just overtook the whole floor. It was so strong, and nobody could figure out what it was to the point where they had called staff of the hotel to check the pipes to see if there was a gas leak. Oh, that was hilarious. I really got a kick when we finally discovered that it was from the durian. I wasn't the powers that be for that event weren't very happy with me. So I get a kick out of that, and every time I think about that. But you know, this is the kind of foods that we need to be putting. I mean, you know, this is food of the highest order. This food is definitely in our master fruit category. I can let you go ahead and Google the benefits of durian. I'll be wasting my time talking about what it does. What are the benefits? Everybody wants to know. I mean, first and foremost, when I look at it, especially, you know, when I look at his profile, you know, I mean, the first thing that tells that, you know, that looks like a brain. You know, so definitely brain food. A high vitality food. Now I'll let you use your imagination with that. Any of our high fat fruit fats are going to feed our essence. If we're feeding our essence, our sexual essence, we're feeding our vitality, we're feeding our health. It's our sexual energy that is our vitality, you know, and this food is at the top of the list. You know, so I wanted to share that with you. Really, you know, I think with this, you know, with these videos, you know, I'll probably be even going into doing some more chefing stuff, because I know that's what y'all like to see. But yeah, I mean, really, this is Mother Nature, at its best in terms of creating. I mean, again, like I said, I can't even imagine the energy it takes to create something like this. And when we compare it to, again, the apples. I mean, I got love for the apples and the peaches and the pears and even some of our tomatoes and cucumbers and our vegetables and all that jazz. All that is wonderful. But first of all, no, none of those fruits is packing a shell like this, and none of those is packing an aroma like this. So imagine putting that energy in you. I mean, you really are giving yourself, what the best that nature has to offer, especially in terms of our food. We're fruit eaters first and foremost. You could say we're omnivores or herbivores or whatever you say, but we're definitely the fruit eaters. We're the fruit eaters. I mean, our bodies are designed to eat fruit, and if we're going to eat fruit, if we're going to do raw, if we're going to affect healing, if we're going to be the best that we can be, we got to eat foods like this. So not just this, obviously, avocados, olives, all of the ones I mentioned. Jackfruit, I believe, is a distant relative of this because it just has a similar makeup. It's big. I mean, these things have been known to kill people. Because you see the spikes. Actually, I kind of trying to open it. I kind of stuck my finger a little bit, and I guess you would ask, where do you get these? You can you go to your international market. Namely, this is a fruit native to Southeast Asia. So if you go to the Asian market, and I mean, you should go to the Asian market really to get a lot of your produce. I say that all the time. After your farmers market, really your international market, probably your best bet, even before your health food market. Because number one, I don't necessarily trust the organic labeling. I feel it's more of a commercial thing now. I may have trusted it 20 years ago before it was such a a in thing when you were going to your small mom and pop health food stores. But now that it's become so big and corporate, I don't necessarily trust the organic labeling, especially when it's coming from such far away, California and Mexico and such. So I like the international markets before I like the because you can get the exotic fruits. You can get the durian. You can get the jackfruit. You can get like muscadine grapes and the lychee, the lychee and the rambutan, and man, get me started. So durian, this is a master fruit, and really what I want to close. I normally try to keep these videos under an hour, but I guess it was just meant for me to really extend this video. And for those of y'all still with me, I thank you. I even personally won't sit and watch an hour of a video. So if you had to put it on pause or you had to come back to it, I can understand. But if you've been with me this whole time, I really appreciate that. But I want to close with you know what? Instead of that, I'm gonna give you another reason to tune in next time. I'm gonna save that for the next video because that could probably be another 30 minutes. So we're gonna close with that. We close with the durian. Just know that right now that this is what I'm gonna be enjoying for my dinner. Once a week I like to. This is actually my fasting day. I mean, this is obviously not a fast, but this is definitely a day where I don't eat anything that is necessarily only prepared by Mother Nature. So I'm not doing any, or there wasn't any very little human interaction in terms of the raw chefing. So no intricate salads, no raw culinary cuisine delights, etc. Like nothing that had to be dehydrated or really interfered with human, even if it's done on just a cutting board, etc. It's just very minimal, just fruits. I give myself that, just for doing a great job the other 6 days of the week. I bless it with the rest and say thank you for processing the food that I so enjoy, and giving my body the best in terms of the digestion, and just working around the clock. We got to give thanks for our bodies for that. And the best way to thank it is to give it a rest. So do that for yourself. Peace, one love. I'm out.